Hey, 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 black man. Wrote a letter to a black man. Keep stepping through it. Black man. You make it, you make it, you make it. Black man. You make it, you make it. Promise you can keep it real, dog. Yeah, you can keep it real. Pain is not forever, you can heal, dog. You know, and you will, dog. Oh yeah. You ain't gotta fake it, no. But you ain't gotta treat it like your heart is really vacant. Faking like you don't got no emotions, that don't make sense. I know you trying to get it going and been patient. Using every skill within you, even latent. Doing everything you can do just to make it. Cause you ain't made it, don't forget the end though. Said you done gave it all to God, what you fret for? Man, even Jesus got some scars, what you scared of? Too busy holding on to stuff should've been let go. See, when you scream into the void, it doesn't echo. But what you speak into existence will surely appear. But see, there ain't no GPS help you move through your fear. You gotta give yourself the drive, put you in the gear. Lack of it ruin your years. Listen to me. Black man. Wrote a letter to a black man. Keep stepping through it. Black man. You make it.
What's up? What's up? What's up? Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Letter to a Black Man, the podcast. I am your host, B. Bernardo, and I'm so excited to have you with me, joining me for this conversation. Tonight's topic is one that we oftentimes just kind of don't take a moment to do, and we don't take a moment to breathe as Black men. So joining me today for this conversation is none other than my friend, my brother, Coach T.H. Scott, who I'll be bringing on in just a second. And he's Serenity Pathways Meditation LLC. And I'm super excited to have him because we don't think about meditation. We don't think about being still. We don't think about finding the quiet places. So I do have him on that's going to help us actually unpack some of the questions around taking a moment to sit with ourselves. So I'm super excited again to have you for this episode. If you will, put your hands together for Coach T.H. Scott. What's going on?
Hey, how you doing today? Hope
I'm doing
everything's well.
great. I'm super excited to have you on tonight's episode. I do want first for you to just introduce yourself to the guests that we have.
Okay, so my name is Coach T.H. Scott. I'm from Chicago, Illinois. I started Serenity Pathways Meditation last year in November. It focuses in on motivational speaking along with meditation. Motivational speaking because of the fact that we know a lot of people need to be motivated to do great things, but also meditation because it quiets the mind. It gets people to get more, calm and relaxed when it comes to dealing with life and stress because things do happen, as we just found out recently, and we have to find ways to cope and deal with those things. So I do the motivational speaking along with the meditation. I'm also working on mentoring and coaching, basically minorities, African Americans, Latino Americans, because a lot of times we are sometimes not looked at as ones that need that type of health and wellness that we really need to talk about and understand and deal with.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for that introduction. And thank you for this space that you created, the motivational speaking as well as the meditation, because as a man, I know with the hustle and bustle of life, I don't sometimes take a moment to sit and breathe. And then I do have a friend who was like, it's so much noise going on in the world that you need to take a moment to just step back and to kind of do a reset for yourself, not necessarily for others, but just a moment of silence for yourself, like silence all of the noise, because with so much noise, it can be so many things that can kind of throw us off, take us back. So thank you. I'm sure we're definitely going to be excited to see what meditation has to offer for us, and definitely want to highlight the meditation aspect of this conversation tonight.
Yes.
So I'm just going to jump right into it.
Okay.
What does peace look like to you?
Well, peace looks like to me, I believe it's like quieting of the mind, the body, and kind of the soul. Finding a way where you're able to relax, where you're to the point where you don't let anything bother you to the point where it's going to get you out of your comfort zone. Because a lot of times, people will let stuff bother them to the point where they're ready to lose it. I mean, just
Mhm.
seriously lose it. So, that type of calmness, that type of stillness means, quieting the mind, maybe listening to maybe some meditation music. That's really helpful for me. Sitting in like a quiet area or corner of the world, either in my room or, sometimes people go outside or go into the forest or into the woods and just kind of just sit back maybe in their car or, on a bench and just let nature do its thing, let it be healing, let it soothe you, let it kind of warm over you, and then it kind of can wash away the bad thoughts and bad feelings you're having at the time.
Absolutely. I think for me, peace is all of that. Peace is just kind of finding a way to find stillness. It's so much stuff that goes on in the world, and then being able to find just a space where even if you don't take 5 minutes, just take a minute to do a reset, like a woosah kind of moment. So I would say within the last couple of years, I've been in my getting in my peace era. Like I do for me, I find I love jazz music. I love the saxophone, so I'll listen to the saxophone.
Yeah,
I'll listen to like some. I crazily enough, I don't like music with words.
yeah, 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 I can
I
understand that.
like
Yeah, yeah.
instrumentals,
Mhm,
and I'll listen to music with words. But I think because I'm in the profession that I'm in, people talk all day long.
mhm.
Sometimes I get tired of talking, tired of hearing people talk. So I'm gonna find me a good instrumental to just kind of let me put the words to it, let me put the words to it, and let me create my own song. But ah, sometimes noise, just
Mhm.
noise is
Yes.
definitely crazy.
Well, I tell people all the time. A lot of times, vibrations of just instruments or just what's going on can definitely be very soothing. And like you, I enjoy some classical music. I enjoy some jazz music. I love some smooth jazz music. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Mhm.
I love some Kenny G. I love some people that play music that just kind of speaks to your soul. It kind of speaks to you because it just allows you to kind of relax and just release a lot of tension and issues that you have going on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When did you realize that you needed to create a space for just to breathe? When did you realize that?
I think when I started becoming an adult, I realized that I had harbored a lot of anger. When I was a kid, I kept a lot of things to myself. I was
Mhm,
angry about things that happened, but I didn't speak out about them. But as I gotten older, I realized that I can't keep all this to myself because it's going
mhm.
to make me explode on somebody. And Lord forbid, I don't want to beat on my wife or anybody like that because it's not somebody who deserves that type of anger because they've always been there to support me, they've loved me, and they've taken care of me. So for me, it just means that you have to find a way to put yourself in a position where you're not feeling that you're going to explode on anybody or that you're releasing the anger or tension that you have going on. Now I sometimes suggest people find a therapist or a group
Mhm,
of guys that they find that are really about listening to you because sometimes people that we call friends are not always friends. They're more like
mhm.
associates in a way because when you talk about things that are real or important to them, they always making a joke about it. They can never take it seriously. And those type of friends are cool to a degree, but they're not the type of friends that are going to help you heal when something gets really to you and to the point where you're going to, need to talk to somebody because you don't want to do something crazy that you're not, used to or not accustomed to doing because of the fact that you can't speak to somebody who's not willing to help you.
So I guess my follow-up question is, do you have a friend, do you personally have a friend group that you can sit and as a male be vulnerable with, like a no judgment zone,
Mhm.
and once you got off your chest they kind of give you the tools or help you kind of pick yourself back up and they don't leave you out there just feeling empty?
Yes, I do have one of those groups that I have. We do have a men's health month. We do meet every month. We have it on Discord where we get together and we just kind of speak about what's been going on with our lives, what's been going on over the course of the week, what's been bothering us, and kind of go from there. It's sometimes it's kind of hard initially when you're kind of new to a group because you don't want to necessarily jump in head first because you don't know
Mhm.
people well enough. Like you know people okay, but you don't know people enough to kind of sometimes break down that barrier. But I think that once you start doing it enough times, you start to realize that you can let go. These people are here to help you, to make you feel better about yourself, help you get through the situation. And again,
Mhm.
if they can give you some advice that they're going to change your life, take it and run with it. Because a lot of times if you go to certain people, they'll charge you for it. So people
Mhm.
offer you free good advice that you can use to help you. Take it and use it and write it down and incorporate it into your life.
Absolutely. I think as a man, and the reasoning for me kind of doing and pushing this podcast is because there's so many different outlets I believe that are for the support of women. And don't get me wrong, women need support.
Mhm.
But I think with men, we're taught we have to be strong. We're taught we have to, like, we don't cry, make you a punk.
Yeah.
And that's going back to what you said earlier, it kind of has you, or has more men where they're now in an angrier space because
Mhm.
um, we, the world, haven't created a space to allow men to be vulnerable. So I know that oftentimes when I'm out, I'll ask a person, how are they doing? And sometimes I kind of linger around just to
Mhm.
see if they're going to really be honest and say how they're doing.
Mhm.
Um, but most times they're not, oh, I'm doing good, and keep on going when for some odd reason, I feel when a person is not um, like when they're not feeling their best, and I kind of take on the weight of that sometimes. So it does get to be a little much, but I feel like that's a purpose. That's my purpose. So creating this space was to have conversations, to be able to create a space for Black men to be able to come in and be vulnerable, not be judged,
Mhm.
and to share their truth, like to give their voice a platform for them to get off their chest how they feel, what made them feel the way they do, and just kind of go from there. So that was a little bit about this particular episode. I know that you deal with it. I want to say, and I don't know if I know, but certain parts of this month was men mental health, but I want to say it's the full month. So I'm super excited about that because I know last month was mental health month, but now it's a focus on men's mental health. So we need it in
Yeah.
all actuality. We need it where we kind of encourage and push brothers to go to therapy,
Mhm.
to go and seek help, to go
Mhm.
and to express your feelings. Like, don't hold it in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's a big one. A lot of times, and like you were saying earlier, a lot of us are told growing up to man up, not to,
mhm.
let things bother us, not let those things get us down. Don't let, people see you struggling. Don't let people see you stressed. Keep it inside until you kind of reach a point where you can release it, I guess, in some, I guess, constructive way and go from there, which is not always easy. And again, as we've gotten better with our, health care and with people
Mhm.
actually going deeper into what people are going through, they see that men do go through a lot. And unfortunately, right now, men have a very high degree of committing suicide. And unfortunately, the
Mhm.
reason why they have a high degree of committed suicide is because they feel that they can't function correctly. They aren't able to deal with things that are going on, and they don't think that they're needed for certain things. And they're
Mhm.
very much so needed. And if you are needed, like I would say, every brother is needed, and you're wanted, and you're loved. You need to say those words of affirmation every day that you're loved, you're needed, and you're wanted because you are more than just the money that you bring in and the body that the space that you
Absolutely.
take up. And you have to be willing to see that. And again, that's why I came up with my men's daily journal.
Mhm.
It's fitness journal. It's basically one that keeps track of how men are feeling. It basically has in each of the pages. It has a daily check-in. So how are you feeling during the course of a day, a week? There's also a food journal as well as a fitness
Mhm.
journal in there. So it just keeps track of those things because sometimes we understand that Black guys or men in general won't actually talk about it, but sometimes they will write it down. And as you were saying before, I find the best way to kind of sometimes if you feel like people are harboring some type of issues going on, start with yourself. Talk about what you've gone through and how you kind of rectify
Mhm.
a situation, because sometimes brothers want to reach out or guys want to reach out, but they don't know how because they feel like I'm going to get judged if I tell you about
Mhm.
this. So if you open up your vulnerability to me first, I know that you're offering a safe space to say, hey, I see you. I understand that you're going through something. I want to share this with you because I know you need help and I want to be that person to help you. So let me tell you what I've gone through. Let me tell you how I deal with it. And
Mhm.
hopefully this can help you out. Now, if you want to open up to me now, that's fine. Or if you want to open up to me later on, that's even better. Whatever chance you have to open up to me, let me know what's going on. I am a listening ear. If you want me to just sit there like this, just let me know. I am more than willing to sit there like this, or you want me to offer you some solutions or try to find you some helpful solutions. I'm not going to tell you what to do in the situation, but
Mhm.
I can
Absolutely.
give you ideas about what you can do, because I've learned, and I'm not sure if you've learned this, when you give people advice, sometimes they'll turn around and turn on you when something goes bad. And it's like, okay, you told me to do this. No, I told you these are your options. Option one, option two, option three, and so forth. So if you choose this option, just understand that this may have repercussions that come out later on. You just got to be
Mhm.
willing to deal with those things. So it's just one of those things where just understanding that you have to be open and honest with people, especially men, and be vulnerable with them sometimes first, because sometimes they've been taught not to bring it up unless it's a safe place that they feel they can talk to somebody on.
Absolutely. What is something that you wish more Black men knew about the power of stillness?
I think that I would like them to understand that it doesn't require a lot of time to do. You can do it for 5 to 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be very long. It's just a safe place for you to relax and be yourself and understand yourself, because you need to understand what you're going through, how you're dealing with situations, and how you deal with past situations and rectifying those. It's
Mhm.
not that you're a bad person. It's not that you don't deserve help. It's not that you're incapable of dealing with everything that comes at you at one period of time, but
Mhm.
that stillness gives you time to reflect and breathe and understand it a little better. And sometimes understand that the worry is not all that much you should be worried about at the time. You can relax, you can let yourself go, and you can be just let yourself be.
Absolutely. I think one thing that I would say that I wish more Black men knew was that it's okay to breathe. Like it's okay to take a moment,
Mhm.
because it will allow you to think before you speak. It will allow you to process your emotions. It will allow you to kind of navigate your response to where it's going to be conducive to the conversation or productive from the conversation. I know I work in property management, so that is a job all in itself.
Mhm.
So there are times throughout the day where I will take a moment and I'll just go to the bathroom and just stand in there. I'm like, I just need, I don't want to answer the phone right now.
Yeah.
I don't want like, it's so much that's happening. I just need a moment. And I know you're not going to bother me in the bathroom.
Mhm.
So let me just like woosah,
Yeah.
woosah,
Yeah.
snap out of it, give myself a reset.
Mhm.
Because it is like I,
Ooh, I lost you for a second. Okay.
yikes, I don't know what just happened.
Yeah. Yeah, you're
But yeah,
saying?
it'll allow me to think as well. So that is definitely something I wish more Black men knew. Just to, it's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay to do a resetting. You can reset 15 times in one
Mhm.
day.
Mhm.
It's okay to reset.
You know what I kind of find funny, and I don't know if you ever noticed this. Have you ever noticed that the most loudest, obnoxious person who says the most stuff are usually the ones in the most pain?
Hmm.
Because of the fact that they don't know how to release that tension. So they do it with jokes, they do it with outbursts, they do it with anger. And those are the ones that are really hurting the most. Those are the ones seeking the most attention, because usually
Hmm.
they finally get the spotlight on them and somebody's acknowledging them and what they're going through. And
Hmm.
a lot of times people don't understand that sometimes. Like if you see some guys or who are that one guy you can see is just acting out, he's just acting up really. He's looking for that attention that he's not gotten that he really wants. And a lot of times, if you give that person that attention, they can definitely become better at what they're doing. They can get more able to concentrate on what they're going, they get more focus. And if you give that proper focus, they can definitely be better off. So a lot of times if you do see those guys, pay attention to those guys. They're the ones that are usually hurting the most and sometimes need the most help. And they're crying out for help, but they just don't know how to do it in a creative, productive way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Was there ever a time that you did not know how to process your emotions?
Yes, definitely. Again, as growing up as a child, I had four sisters, so I was the
Mhm.
only boy. So being the only boy in the house with four sisters, very hard, because again, you see a lot of girls doing a lot of girl things and stuff like that. You really don't have a lot of male figures around you. My neighborhood was primarily girls, and just seeing how they were acting and doing things, I wasn't like that. I sometimes wanted a rough house and stuff like that, but I can't do that with my sisters because that's not how they are.
Mhm.
And I didn't really have, I had my dad, and he's always around, but he was working a lot as well. So it's like, not being able to, kind of rough house and kind of get out some of that anger that I had going
Mhm.
on, with other guys. Sometimes took away from me, understanding where I was emotionally with certain things, and the anger issues. So it's like until you find a productive way to release all that anger you have and all that tension you had growing up, it's going to stay there. And again, it's going to bottle up to the point it's going to explode eventually. You definitely don't want it to explode. So getting that help and, understanding that, that was my trigger point for me growing up, that was my biggest problem, is that I wasn't dealing with that type of anger and wanted to rough house and not being able to do that stuff kind of, something that I needed to work on.
I would say my biological father wasn't in my life, but my stepdad was. Um, we spent time together, but it wasn't a lot of time or the
Mhm.
time that I wish I could have spent learning some things. So when it came to like showing emotions and stuff like that, I did it, but again, at a young age because it was my grandmother, my mom, my aunt, like I was in the house with females.
Mhm.
So they gonna share their emotions,
Yeah.
they gonna cry, they gonna do all this. So, I would say I could share my emotions, but I didn't understand back then my
Mhm.
emotions.
Yes.
So now as an adult, I kind of look at like, okay, well, I'm kind of and it's probably gonna sound weird. I'm kind of glad my dad wasn't as active in my life because like I know now I'm more emotionally aware of what I will and won't accept, what I will and won't do. Like I'm more like emotionally, I'm stable, I'm mentally stable.
Okay.
Um, because I was able to cry, and then
Mhm.
I can recall one day I just cried in front of my mom and she was like, "What's wrong?" And I kind of was able to get off my chest what made me cry. And, she was like, okay, she didn't tell me man up or
Yeah.
make me feel like I couldn't,
Mhm.
express my emotions. So it made me feel good to be able to get it out. But then, of course, I'm also seeing other friends who I'm like, you can cry. They're like, no, I ain't gonna be able to do that because their father was in their life and like, no, we ain't doing that. Men don't cry. Men don't do this. So I'm like, okay, yeah, y'all can have it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I
I
think.
do, I am glad that at a young age I was able to show emotions, but now I understand the
Yeah.
emotions that I show. Like it makes more sense now.
You know what I think it is too is that for me, I've cried in front of my father before, and I've seen my father cry, and he's never actually told me that I should never cry, but he's always
Mhm.
told me that in certain situations you got to man up, and sometimes things will happen, and you have to learn how to deal with them. Now, again, my father, he had his father, and so forth and so on, but again. We're talking about generations where they weren't able to check their emotions because it wasn't looked at. It was just mostly guys working all the time, guys always, always focusing in on making sure that they, took care of the family, took care of their brothers and sisters and stuff like that. And, they
Mhm.
were never actually allowed to deal with their emotions at the time. And my father allowed me to do that as well. Granted, like I said, he always made sure I manned up and took care of situations as well. But he said, if you need to that time to cry and deal with stuff, please do that because you're human, just like I'm human. I remember a time I've cried in front of him, and I know he felt so bad because, like, he was just joking with me and he talked about me, we talked about each other, just because we made fun of it, and he saw how bad that made me feel. And he was like, "No, I never want you to feel like I'm ever
Mhm.
saying that you're not enough, that you're not a good person, that you're not going to be a good man. But I got to understand, too, that I have to also toughen you up to deal with life and everything's going to throw at you because
Absolutely.
they're not going to be soft on you when you get out in these streets, especially when you start getting these jobs. They're going to yell at you. They're going to fire you. They're going to call you all types of names out of the book. So you got to be ready to deal with that type of situation. So it's very, very good that my dad was there, is there currently there in my life as well, always pushing me to try to be better, listening to me and again learning how to deal with, just what life will throw at you. Because life, like you yes, has thrown a lot of curveballs at us. So we gotta learn how to handle those situations.
I would definitely say, based off of the life throwing curveballs, can you recall a moment when life forced you to slow down?
I think the time when life forced me to slow down, I think was when I lost my job. When I
Mhm.
lost my job, it was at a point in time where I felt like, I was doing well. I was doing what I needed to do. I was like, okay, I don't understand why I'm getting let go. I've always been a good person. I've always been on time for work. I try to do the best I can do, but they let me go and I have to now go out and seek other jobs, but also realize that this is a time to reflect. This is a
Mhm.
time to kind of vent and just be still because now that you don't have to go to work, you don't have that rush and that push to be getting those 8 hours done and try to get as much stuff done as you can do for somebody else. You're always, whenever you go to work, you're always working for somebody else. You're always trying to push. They're
Mhm.
always trying to push you to get as much done as possible while paying you the most minimum amount of money. But and you know exactly what I mean. So
Mhm.
just having that time to be still, even though I was let go, means that I'm able to reflect on what's going on, kind of figure out what my next move is going to be, even if it's no move at all. It's just a moment to kind of sit and vent and just reflect on, what I did wrong or, where I want to go with my life. Because sometimes, we are pushed in that area where it says, okay, you need to stop what you're doing because you're going 100 miles per hour. And sometimes you need to slow down because you don't want to run square into a brick wall because you're trying to move so fast, trying to do everything, keep up with everybody.
Absolutely. I would definitely say, and I think I've shared it on previous episodes, but if not, one thing that made me slow down and kind of appreciate moments in life a little bit more, was like my mom's passing. Like that made me kind of slow down because when life had happened, with just her being diagnosed with cancer, like when life happened,
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. But after she passed, like my mindset to go home, but my body ended up, well, my body said go home, but my mind drove me to the emergency room because they was like, if you had not come in, you probably would have had a stroke because my pressure was
Wow.
like really high because I didn't deal with anything and I was just constantly trying to go, trying to show up for everyone else.
Mhm.
So it was in that moment when I was laying in the hospital and I was like, okay, wait, mm-mm. This is not what I expected. This is not what I needed. But I think that was a moment in time because when I was in there, I think they had to. My pressure was so high. They was like they cut the lights off.
Yeah.
It was dark, so they set me in this dark room to
Mhm.
just. And I was like, I'm finna go crazy. I got to get me out of here.
Yeah.
But I needed that. So now I'm okay with spending time in the dark,
Yeah. Yeah.
just breathing. I prefer like a dark, cool room, and I'll
Mhm.
sit. And sometimes even when I'm at work, like as I mentioned earlier, like my little decompression moment, I'll
Yeah.
go to the bathroom, cut the light off. Like
Mhm.
it's just, I feel like when the lights are on, everything is awoke. Everything is woke. So it's
Mhm.
like, let me just cut the lights off. Let me just
Sit. Agree.
quiet, everything is center, everything. So I would say that particular situation with my mom was one of those moments that made me just kind of sit and process, deal, slow down. But
Mhm.
it them initially just putting me in the room to turn the lights off was like, we have to bring your pressure lower, like,
Yeah.
because if not, it's gonna be bad.
Yeah.
So that was something for me that kind of told me to slow down or taught me how to slow down.
Yeah.
Of course, you still try to go and run.
Mhm.
Us men,
Yeah.
we,
Yeah.
we like, okay, if God got us out of that one, we can,
Yeah.
we gonna keep on going. So
Mhm.
I, not gonna say every day I sat down because I still got back up once I got out. Like, oh, I
Yeah.
can go, I can still go. But there have been moments where it's like,
Yeah.
sit
Yeah.
down, take a moment,
Mhm.
process, deal.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, I feel like every person deserves at least to go to therapy for free once
Mhm.
a week because it is important to deal with what's going on around you. And so many people have so many issues that they could have alleviated if they just go see a therapist and they go see somebody who's willing to listen to what's going on with them because people are so riled up and so angry at things that they either can't control or things that are beyond them or things that don't even matter. It's like honestly, you can't take any of this stuff with us. You can't take
Mhm.
these bills with us. You can't take none of the stuff we bought with us. We can't take none of the pressure, none of the, we can't take anything besides ourselves with us once we leave this plane. But it means that sometimes you have to take a moment. And I think sometimes that's the reason why God stops people from doing things. It tells you, okay, you need to sit here and just be okay with sitting, like you said, sitting in the dark because you have to process this. Again, black men suffer from hypertension, high blood pressure, heart disease. I have high blood pressure, honestly. And, it's one of those things where you have to be very wary of that stuff. And sometimes, like you said before, you have to slow down. You have to take a breather. You can't always be running at maximum speed because eventually, just like a battery, it's going to eventually start to drain
Mhm.
and you're going to be at zero at some point and you're going to just, drop. And you need to be able to have that stopping point to say, I'm stopping here. I'm taking this time out. And again, that's why I tell people if you need to take days off, take your days off. You have these days off for
Use
a
your
reason.
PTO.
Yeah, take your PTO time. Please take your PTO time. You're not doing yourself any favors by not taking your PTO time. It is
Mhm.
needed. I don't care if you just take it off and just don't do anything or play a video game or whatever you do. Whatever you need to do to help recharge your mind is definitely important because there is not a person that I've ever met that has ever told me that they were able to keep going at 110% when they've had a meltdown or they've had a mental break or they're having some type of mental issue.
Absolutely. So, how does the need to appear strong keep Black men from resting?
I think it's because of the fact that it goes stemming back from slavery and things of that nature, where we were kind of taught that we had to be strong. You couldn't really show emotions. You had to keep everybody in check, whether it was your wife, whether it was your children, or whoever. You had to keep people in check because, again, those people wanted to make sure that you were not weak. Weakness meant that you weren't at your fullest capabilities. And a lot of
Mhm.
times, that type of PTSD has not gone away. It has not been dealt with. And a lot of times, it keeps getting filtered on from one generation to the next. So guys constantly are thinking that I need to be strong all the time. I don't need to ever show that I'm ever going through anything, at least until something big happens. Like you said before, when it happened, unfortunately happened to your mother passing away. That was a moment where it's like, man, this is something I can't be strong with. This is something that breaks
Mhm.
down any person who's lost a parent, an uncle, an aunt, a grandparent, somebody close to you. It breaks you down on levels that you've never been able to see before. But it also gives you the time to realize and recognize that you don't always have to be that strong person. I think that realization came to me in like 2004 because in 2004 I lost my grandfather, I lost my niece, I lost my grandmother, and then I lost my brother-in-law all in the same year. So it was like four people who were close to me who were really people that I cared about, and my niece being so young because she was like maybe 4 years old and she passed away, and that just and I was at a point too in my life where I was kind of scared of children because I had dropped a child by accident. because it spit up on me and I was young. And that kind of traumatized me too. Like I never really wanted to hold children. And then what happened to my niece kind of made me realize that this child is not going to hate you, because you made a mistake way back when.
Mhm.
You shouldn't hold this to yourself to say that you're not a good person because you made a mistake or this happened. It just means that you got to be more careful or adamant about what's going on with you and understand that, love is love. And
Mhm.
sometimes, like I said before, you got to stop and realize that, people are not going to be here forever. But you got to recognize that when the people are here, you spend time with them, you actually spend time with yourself, and you make sure that the time that you do have here, you spend it in a good way.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, how do we unlearn? How can us black men, we
Mhm.
unlearn to keep going no matter mindset? Like, how can we unlearn that?
I think the best way we can learn is start taking more time with each other, start spending more time with each other, stop doing things, stop running around. Let's just do something that's keeping us without not having to be focused in on something so hard and so deep. Just something where we can, I would say, call it guys' day, where it's like you take some of your guys, you guys go hang out, go do something that you guys will enjoy doing. It could be basketball, could be go playing video games somewhere, but somewhere you guys can talk. You can be
Mhm.
real about things that are going on with you, and sometimes you have to have that right person in that group that can step up and say, "Okay, guys, we need to just talk this out." And let us
Mhm.
know, what's going on with you because there is a lot happening to you. I can see it in your eyes. I can see it in the way you're acting that you are trying to go 110% and you are not able to give that 110% right now. You need to talk about what's affecting you. And again, you have to have that one guy, if all of them can be, one guy has to step up and say, okay, we need to unlearn how we're going to be at 100%, 110% all the time. We can only be at certain percentages, and that's fine. That's okay. That's not going to be the end all be all thing. And if people can't understand that, then they don't need to be in your circle. You need people who are in your circle who are going to be there to check you and say, dude, stop. You need to stop.
Mhm.
You're not Superman right now. I understand sometimes you cannot be Superman. Sometimes you got to be the sidekick. You can't be always be the hero in every story.
Mhm.
Sometimes you got to be the sidekick. Sometimes you got to be the damsel in distress if need be. Whatever you need to be at this point in time, you got to realize that you can't always be in the driver's seat of everything that's happening. So I think the biggest way and the biggest thing I can tell people is make sure you have somebody in the group that's willing to step up and say, we need to take some time. We need to kind of figure out how we are feeling outside of what we're being told to say that we're okay.
I definitely will piggyback off of that 110%. What I wanted to highlight is just having your friend circle.
Mhm.
Um, because again, you do have males that have men friend circles or male friend circles, and then you have males that are friends with females, like, and there's nothing sexual going on with them, just genuine friendship because they grew up together. But it's all about your friend circle, just being able to hold you accountable. I'm like, okay, like you said, you cannot be strong. It's okay. Like, and it's okay to have a moment. But I also think even with that, we have to give ourselves the grace to
Mhm.
know that we can have a moment. We are due a moment. We are due a moment of silence. We are due a moment of just no noise. We are due a moment to just be the damsel in distress, or to allow someone else to make a decision, allow
Mhm.
someone else to lead. Um, because I do know, like, I have friends that are in relationships and they're like, okay, I go to work and I lead all day. When I get home, I may want my wife to take the lead,
Yeah.
and be okay with that. But then if you have a supportive partner, that understands that, okay, I see how you move in the world, so I want to create a space for you to where, yeah, because I know when you take that moment for yourself, you're charging yourself back up, and I know that you're going to be able to lead. But when you can't lead, can I help you out? Like, can
Yeah.
I help you, encourage you? And even as a friend circle, like when you can't lead, it's okay to take leadership from someone else, because all of us have one goal in mind, and that's to see each other succeed. So it's okay. Take a back seat. I got you. I got you. You're in good hands. You're gonna be good, and it's okay. Like, you ain't gonna hear about it. I'm not gonna throw it in your face that you had a moment of weakness. But again, us just having to unlearn, to keep going, to keep strong, to keep showing up, and just to take a moment to say, okay, hey, I ain't got it right now. I don't have the energy. I don't have the mental capacity. And then as a friend, to know how to handle someone saying they don't have the mental capacity to keep going or to lead in this particular moment, especially if you know that this is a role that they flourish in.
Exactly. Rashad, thank you for dropping in. I know you were a great top guys. I've seen that pop in on YouTube. But yeah, one thing that I think our biggest problem is that we don't vet our mates a lot of times very well.
Mhm.
Sometimes you find that guys will go for the cutest, baddest thing they could ever seen before without really kind of gauging where they are mentally. And if you don't gauge where they are mentally, red flags can be thrown up all in your face, but you will miss them out because you're too busy staring at the beauty in the mirror. So it's like, you got to be willing to vet who you're with and who's going to really be there for you when you're having issues, because any person can technically stand by you, but it takes a stronger person who's going to stand with you no matter what. And people will be in your circle sometimes for a season, sometimes for a reason, but you have to understand that you need the correct people in your circle, the people that are going to say, no matter what you're going through, I'm going to stay with you. I know you're going to have hard time. It happens, and
Mhm.
there's nothing wrong with that. If you need help, reach out and ask for it. I'm not going to be that person that's just going to say you handle everything. And if that person is that type of person, you don't need that person in your life, because there's no person in your life that should ever stay in your life that makes you always the 100% holder of everything that happens. Granted, every guy is supposed to be the man of the household. The
Mhm.
to take care of everything. But there's moments where you can't always be that way. You have to let someone else sometimes take the reign. Not saying you should do it all the time or just give it over to
Absolutely.
the other person, but you need to be willing to and able to understand that you may need to take a back seat. You may need to relax. You may need to just kick up your feet for a moment and just relax and deal, because it's not going to get any better for you if you have a meltdown or if you have a mental break because of the fact that you're not getting that time to relax and find that stillness.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What's there? What was the first time that you intentionally chose peace over pressure?
I think the first time I chose peace over pressure, I think what it was that I'm trying to think of an exact time that it happened to me. Where I chose peace over pressure. I think it was when I went to college.
Mhm.
When I was in college, during that time, I was one of those people where I kept my nose to the grind, and I was always was trying to do my best I could do, and I wasn't giving myself enough time to relax and deal with something. And ironically, a therapist, a black guy who was a therapist, was at the school, and he said, "You know what? I think you need to come into therapy, and speak to me about what's going on and what's going on with you," because I think he was working on his grad thesis, and he had, came in meet with a group of guys, and he was just talking to us in a way that made us feel more relaxed and at peace with ourselves. He says, when you come in here, I want you to focus in on what you're going through and how we are able to deal with these situations, because they're not going away. And this is the reason why we need black male therapists, more black male therapists, because they are ones that have been through situations like this. They've seen situations like this, and they're not going to be judgmental when these situations happen. They're going to be the guys who are going to step up and say, oh, okay, here, we need to take some time. Let's figure this out together, whether we need to either, have you do some meditation, whether
Mhm.
we need to have pull you out of certain type of situations that are giving you more stress, or no need be, medication if that's something that it comes to, but something that's going to make you feel at peace, something that's going to help you find your stillness, because you're not going to be any better of a person, especially in college. And we know college can be very daunting, even though it's fun. When it comes to them grades and you have to keep up a certain GPA, and you got other things going on, like I worked and stuff like that, and I know people who did sports and all that good stuff, you got to prioritize sometimes your own stillness and your own peace and your own way to relax. So that has to be, very important and very much so definitely needed.
Absolutely. I would definitely say, um, when I think back, I think I've always, no, because I majorly chose peace. Like majority of the time, I chose peace. Like
Mhm.
I'm not a violent person. I'm
Yeah.
not like a argumentative person. I do not like arguing. So
Mhm.
it's kind of because it takes too much energy to get to that space.
Mhm.
So I know I've always chose peace. Now, on the flip side of it,
Mhm.
if I get into that space, um, it's up and it's stuck. So
Mhm.
I try not to get into that space, but just I can say even now I've chose more peace. Like you're not calling my phone stressing me out.
Mhm.
You're not texting me stressing me out. You're
Mhm.
not coming up to my job. Like even at work, like no, we're gonna reset. Like, and I
Yeah.
think with my personality, because I've been called like a midday commercial break. So even when somebody comes in, I kind of see how they're coming in. I'm gonna always say something that's gonna reset their mood, and then they're like, "Well, wait, hold on, because I came in here, I wanted to be mad, but you so crazy, you said something, so now I have to okay, I needed that, so
Mhm.
it's let me reset you because peace is my portion, and I'm gonna get
Exactly.
peace regardless." So,
Yes, definitely. Yeah, and it's crazy you say that because for me, I was a people pleaser. Like I grew up a lot of times, and I wanted to be liked by everybody. So you sometimes become a people pleaser, where people will literally try to run over you and try to
mhm,
treat you any type of way because you're a people pleaser. And I was at a point where I know in college I was that way too. I was like a people pleaser. Like I wanted people to like me, want to be around me, and stuff like that. But it came to a realization, I think, after college, and I talked to someone else and said, 98% of these people that you talk to in college, you're not going to see anymore. They're going to
mhm,
go out there and do their own thing. You're going to wish them the best. You're going to hope that they always are doing well, but you're not going to see these people. So why try to take the time out to please them instead of pleasing yourself and focusing in on what's making you happy? Because if you can't make yourself happy, you can't make anybody else happy. So you got to be happy with yourself
absolutely,
and what's going on with yourself. And if you're not happy with yourself, you got to find a way to get there. And whether it be reading a book, some self-help books, or listen to some people that are going to motivate you to find the best version of yourself. Like I tell people all the time, you're not going to do well if you're always trying to always have everybody like you and want to be around you and things of that nature. So
absolutely. So we will wrap it up, but I definitely want to. I want to ask one more question,
okay,
and then I know that you have your meditation box.
yes,
And I do want you to share a little bit on that. And then what I want to do, um, I want to purchase one of those boxes and I want to do it as a giveaway.
okay,
I'll definitely purchase one for myself, but I definitely want to purchase one and do it as a giveaway because, again, I think if you have this journal that allows people to kind of navigate and write down, because people can't put into words how they feel, but they can put into words when they don't have to share it with someone, like they don't have to talk face to face with someone.
mhm,
So it's a journal that they
right,
can fill out
mhm,
and answer all of the questions that's in there and just kind of get their thoughts on paper,
mhm,
so that they can kind of, I guess, do a check from a year from now.
mhm.
Where was I then and what have I done to get myself into a better place? So I definitely want to talk about that in just a second. But my final question for you is, what advice would you give a man who feels like slowing down means failure?
Ooh, that's a really great question. I love that question. It does not mean failure. That's the biggest thing. The slowing down does not mean failure. It means taking a second look at what's going on around you and rethinking things. There's no problem with that. I often do that too. I have to rethink the things that are going on around me because sometimes, you can be going 100 miles an hour towards that one goal and not realize that sometimes if you take a step back and give yourself a little more time, things will fall into place. Because
Absolutely.
we're always on the sound mind that I have to go 100 miles per hour, I have to go be so dead set on this thing that I can't see anything else. That doesn't work that way. Sometimes you have to sometimes take a step back because you end up tripping over your own feet sometimes because of the fact that you're trying to rush in and this is not the path that you need to be taking right now. So slowing down does not equal failure. It just means taking a step back and realizing that you are understanding where you need to go. You're taking a second look at stuff. And honestly, I tell people all the time, sometimes you do need to take a second or third look at where you're going because
Mhm.
where you think you're going may not be exactly where you want to end up. So, you got to understand that there's going to be different paths you can take. I'd say my biggest thing I would tell people, life is a journey, not a destination, because the
Absolutely.
fact you got to understand that no matter which way you go, you may be trying to head toward that one destination, but the journey is going to change because of the fact that you're going to change as a person. I'm not the same person I was at 20. I'm not the same person I am at 30. And I'm definitely not the same person I am at 40s. So it's
Mhm.
like you got to understand that you're going to be changing your ways of thinking in your past. And just because you slow down does not mean that you're failing. It just means that you're taking a second look at what's going on around you and figuring out this may be a different path for me. This may not be the path I initially started on, but this other path might be a better one. Sometimes I just have to slow down, take a look at it, and figure out exactly where I want to be.
Listen, I totally agree with that, but I would definitely add slowing down does not mean failure. Slowing down just reminds you to breathe so that you can
Mhm.
process and definitely kind of hone in on where you're going. But everything that you just said, slowing down is, as a man, we have to take a moment. And I think in that slowing down, it reminds us that we're human. In that moment, it'll remind us that, hold on, let me give myself grace, let me reset, let me step outside of what I'm looking at
Mhm.
and like put my own opinion on it from a different angle.
Yes, sir.
It sometimes allows you to step outside of it and give a different perspective, so you can say, oh well, I was doing it like this, but it wasn't, because when you're in it, it seems perfect, but you kind of
Yeah.
find yourself frustrated. But when you take a moment to slow down, you get a chance to step outside, step to the side of it, and look at it and say, okay, that's why it wasn't working. Because again, you're going 100 miles an hour, and your mind is, I got to get it done, got to get it done, got to get it done by any means necessary. But when you slow down, you're like, wait,
Mhm.
let me, now I see this missing piece that was there the entire time, but now I know how to make it fit to make sure that I'm staying on the same path. So I definitely appreciate your insight on that. And I definitely appreciate the conversation today.
Yeah.
Um, I again want you to talk about your
Men's
product,
health general kit. Yeah. Yeah.
talk about.
Oh yeah, yeah. So it's a men's health journal kit. So basically, it has what it has in it. It has the men's health journal in it. It also has like a nice little wristband in it with a motivational quote on it. Sorry about that. It also has a stress ball in it. It has "Yes We Can" on it. It has a nice little stress ball in it. It also has a thank you card. Thank you for purchasing the actual men's health journal kit. It has a pin in there that also has a beautiful quote on it. It has a lanyard that has 5 different words of affirmation for people. So it's something that you can keep on you at all times. Just keep looking at. I always say the best thing you can do in the morning is say 5 words of affirmation about
Mhm.
yourself, about how grateful you are about yourself or your situation that you're in, and love on yourself, because a lot of times how you start off in the morning can dictate how your day will be. So again, it's the journal that's in there. It's the stress balls in it. There also are some crystals in there as well. So crystals, if you're not familiar with crystals, about cleanliness and about understanding yourself and having them along with you while you work on the journal. Again, there's a pen in there, and then there's also a wristband, and then there's a lanyard in there. So I put these in there because I feel that these are all things that guys can use. Again, the lanyard you can always have in your pocket. The men's health journal is something that you can always just work on during the course of the day. The wristband is something to look at during the course of the day on your wrist to let you know that your strength is not always needs to be moving at 110%. So just look down at your risk and seeing the quote, knowing that you can do this. Also, the stress ball that you can squeeze, because everybody goes through stress, and sometimes it's a little stress ball that you can have that you can keep in your hand, you can stick in your pocket, and you can keep on you at all times. Because again, you want to make sure that you're getting the help you need, and then of course the crystals and then the pins. So these are all in the Men's Health Journal kit, which I definitely sell to people. Again, I always tell people, give people what they need, because a lot of times it helps them realize that they can go a lot further once they figure out the things that they need by giving them those things that they need.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I will say for me, I'm going to purchase the health journal because I do know that you're able to purchase the health journal by itself. But I'm also going to purchase. I'm going to purchase the health journal for myself so I can write down and get my thoughts out.
Yes.
But I am wanting to do a giveaway, so I'll purchase the kit because I do want to give it away, and I think it's something necessary, especially with so much that's going on in the world. We can't articulate how we want to say it, but we can definitely write it down, and just giving ourselves the grace to have our emotions and to kind of jot it down. That stress ball, I'm telling you, I could be at work taking a phone call and squeeze it because it's necessary. But I'm definitely going to reach out to you after this, so that I can go ahead and get that taken care of. So I'm super excited. Again, thank you so much for joining me for this conversation. Where can our followers find you?
So I do have pretty much every social media. I have Facebook as Serenity Pathways Meditation. I do have a TikTok as Serenity Pathways. Same thing with Twitch, X, Blue Sky. I have a fan base one. So all of them I have set up, for, words of, usually in the mornings, I usually post some quote that usually kind of goes through the day for either Monday through Sunday. And then they ask you a question about something that you're doing, that you're working on, that goes along the same lines of the information I've given people, because I want people to understand that, even though you're giving this information, how are you applying this to yourself and your day? And it just definitely helps people. And I feel like that's a great way to go. I'm also working on some more speaking engagements. I believe I have a couple of them coming up soon, which I'll definitely be posting to my YouTube page. Again, I have a YouTube page as well. YouTube page, and again, some other websites as well that I mentioned earlier, social media. So feel free to follow me on those. Again, if you want the kits, please let me know. Again, they can contact me at Serenity Pathways Meditation at gmail.com. Again, it's Serenity Pathways Meditation at gmail.com. And I can definitely get those out to you. We do have a newsletter that we send out to people if they want to, get the personal, messages that I send out to people, because again, I want to help people as much as possible. And I know I can be a helping, guiding light to people who definitely need it, especially African American men.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Coach. Thank you so much, Coach Scott, for putting us in the game with this knowledge. I appreciate it. I appreciate all that you and your brand has to offer for the community. It is definitely necessary, and it is needed. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. To those who are following us, I'll definitely share his information on our Instagram page, on our YouTube page, so that way you can reach out to and make your connects and actually make your purchase of the journal or the kit. So again, Coach Scott, you and I will be talking, but again, thank you so much for the conversation, and I look forward to communicating with you soon.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
And that was another episode of Letter to a Black Man, the podcast, The Need to Breathe. And I thank Coach Scott for just coming in and dropping his gems off for us. This was a powerful episode. And I will again add his information to the episode, also to some of the snippets for you to reach out and get your journal as well as get your kit. I will be doing a giveaway, so be on the lookout for the giveaway for the kit. And I thank you so much for all tuning in. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to send us a message. Thank you all and have a good night.